Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. My name is Rosalie Olmstead. I am WiCyS Strategic Partner Coordinator. It is a pleasure to have you all joining us today to discuss and learn more about the WiCyS Cyber Defense Challenge made possible by Target. But before I pass it over to the Target team, I am going to give you a brief overview of the WiCyS organization. We often go by our acronym WiCyS because that is exactly what we are, a global cyber sisterhood. WiCyS is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. Our community is made up of over 10,000 members in 103 different countries. We have 72 professional affiliates and 311 student chapters around the world. We offer numerous skills development programs throughout the year, specifically the Target Cyber Defense Challenge. And we would like to thank all of our strategic partners who help us fund those programs throughout the year. Our tier one partners being 3M, Akamai, Amazon, Bloomberg, Carnegie Mellon University, Cisco, Ford, Google, Lockheed Martin, Optum, Sandia National Labs, SANS, and SentinelOne. Throughout this webinar, please feel free to ask any and all questions in the question box below. We are going to send some designated time at the end for a Q&A session, but please feel free if at any point you have a question to drop it in and we will be getting to them at the end. And lastly, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the WiCyS newsletter. You will find it at wicys.org in the upper right-hand corner. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Sydney with Target.
Oh, hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and happy Tuesday. I legitimately cannot believe it is already time to kick off our challenge. We are so excited and so happy to have all of you joining us to kick off the 4th annual WiCyS Cyber Defense Challenge. My name is Sydney Delp. I lead Target's defense operations teams. I am joined here today by my partner in crime, Kyle Johnson, from our enterprise incident management team, as well as the Kurt Watzler, our chief engineer, chief designer, and the true genius behind this and every one of our previous challenges. We are here today to tell you a little bit about ourselves and our team, to give you just a bit of insight into kind of where this challenge comes from, and most importantly, get you excited for this year's events. I will touch on what to expect, both for those of you who have done this before, and also those of you who are jumping in for the first time. Welcome, by the way. And I will absolutely save some time at the end for questions. On that note, though, just to reinforce, if you do have questions while I'm speaking, feel free to toss those into the Q&A section. Kurt and Kyle will try to preemptively answer as many as possible before we get to Q&A. So, to start things off, I want to spend just a moment here letting you get to know us, kind of who we are, how we operate at Target. We are extremely fortunate to have a large and powerful cybersecurity team, which allows us to really specialize within our teams a lot. So starting off with cyber defense, Kurt, Kyle, and I all work out of our cyber defense organization, which is essentially our frontline defenders. These teams are all dedicated to protecting Target from active threats and attacks. This is where you're going to find our incident response team, our threat intelligence team, Kurt's engineering team, who builds custom tooling for our Fusion Center, which, by the way, holds a lot of awesome patents for their work, among quite a few others. My defense operations teams include Red Team, Data Protection, Insider Threat, and Kyle's own Enterprise Incident Management team. We also have our solutions org, which is responsible for making sure Target operates securely from the inside out. Our penetration testers are going to be here, the folks that manage identity and access, those who keep our network secure, not to mention our product security team, who ensures our developers within Target Tech are designing with cybersecurity in mind and keeping their code bug-free. And then finally, we have our risk organization, which manages exactly that. They make sure we all remain compliant to standards like PCI and SOX. They have teams that work really closely with our vendors to keep those relationships secure, and also teams like security training and awareness, who run phishing campaigns, design internal training, and organize big events like our October Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I wanted to include this slide both to give you a feel for how many different types of security teams we have at Target, but more importantly, to give you a perspective of just who is building this challenge. This year specifically, we have volunteers from over 15 unique different teams within cybersecurity. You're going to hear in a second, one of our goals of the challenge is to be able to bring you those perspectives from a lot of different teams or functions. And that's made possible by the awesome internal support we receive for this all across the organization. Last year during this webinar, I managed to squeeze everybody's names into this slide who volunteered, but I legitimately don't have room anymore. We're running out of room to even name the teams that they all come from. But needless to say, we love making this challenge for women in cybersecurity, and we are really excited about what we have in store for this year. But one last quick call out to our team before we get into the challenge. I always like to pause here to highlight specifically our Cyber Fusion Center, which is kind of like the beating heart to our defense program. Given that we model a lot of our defensive challenges somewhat based off of how Target would respond to cyber threats, I think it's worth a quick overview right here of how Target's Fusion Center operates. So our Fusion Center is exactly that. It's a fusion of various specialty functions that all work extremely closely together to respond to threats. We are, above all, an intel-driven organization using insights from our cyber threat intelligence team to drive how we build detection, how we prioritize preventative controls, basically how we prepare for and respond to cyber attacks. Our detection team then takes in that intel to write rules in real time and find potential bad in our environments. And then when those rules fire, our incident response team will investigate, taking containment actions as needed. And when we have a high severity event, they'll escalate to Kyle's team, Enterprise Incident Management, to coordinate response actions across the whole enterprise. It's worth mentioning there's a whole lot more teams involved than just the four mentioned here. But I share this because we try to incorporate all of these hats into our challenges to give a broad perspective on defending against threats. But enough of that. Let's get into the challenge itself. So what we will be putting on here in July is a capture the flag style event that's going to be a little different from some of the other CTFs you might have been in before. So instead of a collection of various assorted challenges and puzzles, this CTF is going to walk you through a breach scenario from start to finish, touching on each part of the kill chain with challenges at various parts built out to kind of tell that breach narrative. They'll all be connected. There will be a flow to it with the intent here to give you a real feeling like you're responding to an actual incident. There are three big things that we focus on when we build this challenge. One, we want it to be approachable to all WiCyS members, regardless of experience levels. You'll hear in a second about how this is also a competition, and I will acknowledge that past cybersecurity experience will likely give you a leg up on the competition portion, but it is above all a learning experience. And so with every challenge, we are going to provide resources and links to get you trained up enough to tackle each one. And even if you get stuck, we'll have hints along the way to help you out. Again, our intent is for everyone to be able to work through at least the first tier of the challenge, regardless of where you're coming from. Second, we want this challenge to be hands-on. We have put an enormous amount of engineering work into making what you're doing with your keyboard as close as possible to what you'd be doing in real life. You'll be hands-on in writing queries and detection rules, in digging into infected hosts, and communicating with the threat actor, or at least we're designing things to give you that feeling. Going back to that approachability bullet, we will not be making you download or install complex tools or VMs or make any types of software purchases. So we simulate some of those more tricky portions the best we can. Third, we want this challenge to be as realistic as humanly possible. Like everything we do in cyber defense, we start with threat intelligence. In building out this challenge, we use input from our intel team to pick a real and prominent threat actor group to model our bad guys off of, and then use their same techniques to create the kill chain. And likewise from defender tactics, we set challenges that we ourselves would be doing in the event of a real incident. In terms of why we hope that you participate, first and foremost is this is an awesome experience. We've had folks tell us from previous challenges that this is something they reference on their resumes, that they talk about in interviews. The skills and techniques learned during this should be relevant for folks looking to move into cybersecurity or those that are just looking to improve within the field. It's also a great way to get some exposure to a lot of different areas of cybersecurity. I'll mention here on the next slide about how you'll see both sides of the attack, both the defender and the attacker. This is a really great way to explore around. And third, it's a phenomenal way to interact with the WiCyS and the target communities. The collaboration here is awesome. I've never seen a more active Slack instance than the one we use for this challenge. It is a great way to build up your network and hopefully make some friends along the way. All right, so getting more specific into how the challenge works, we will have 3 tiers similar to our prior challenges. Tier 1 is going to be open to everyone to be able to play. You will be the defender of a tech company who just received some pretty bad news. Your challenges will be kicked off with you receiving a ransom demand from a threat actor who has claimed to have stolen a significant amount of your company's data. You're going to go through a series of challenges to investigate this claim, try to figure out where the data was stolen from, and hopefully, fingers crossed, kick out the threat actor. The top 50 individuals from tier 1 will then move on to compete in tier 2. In the second tier, as I mentioned, the top 50 will compete, although we do plan on opening up this tier to everyone to participate once the competition portion is over and we've identified the top 10. So to be clear, everyone will still be able to do the tier 2 challenges. It'll just be the top 50 from tier 1 who will be competing. In the second tier, we're going to rewind the clock, and you will now be playing as the same threat actor that you just defended against. This time you'll be conducting the attack that you just previously investigated. The top 10 from tier 2 will be declared the winners, and they will win a trip to WiCyS's 2026 conference. Those in the top 10 will then also get a chance to prevent their findings and their experience. Tier 3 isn't actually a competition, just again, an opportunity to connect with target. All right, so knowing the tiers, let's talk about timelines. Just I'm having a connection error here. Give me a second. There we go. So registration is now open. If it hasn't been posted already, we will share a link to the registration page here in the webinar. You will have until June 13th to sign up. There are no limits to the number of participants. We just do registration like this ahead of time so that we can plan appropriately, especially from a load balancing perspective. On July 1st, we will hold a kickoff webinar for all of those that have registered with everything you need to know to get started on the challenge. We'll go a lot more in depth and talk through instructions on how to sign into the CTF platform, how to find flags, how to submit flags. We'll answer frequently asked questions, et cetera, et cetera. Immediately following that webinar, we will then open up the challenge and you can have at it. We have gotten feedback in the past that the challenge is great, but it would be awesome to have more time to work through, especially the tier 1 challenges. So note here that we are giving the whole month of July to work through tier 1. We're kicking off on a holiday weekend, which I know will be good for some folks, bad for others, but hopefully this additional extra week and a half here will be helpful for everyone to have plenty of time to get through it. July 31st being the last date you can compete. We will then shut down the platform for a period of time so we can load in the second tier challenges. The top 50 will then kick off the second tier competition with a webinar on August 7th and compete through September 4th. If we're able to determine the top 10 more quickly than that, if we can figure out who the winners are early, we will open up the second tier to everybody early. Otherwise, we will plan on opening up the second tier to all participants once the competition closes on September 4th. And likewise, we'll likely keep the platform open for a month for folks to play tier 2. And then we will determine when the presentations for tier 3 are at a later date once we can coordinate calendars with the top 10. Okay, so before we move on to questions, I did want to give just a quick peek on what's in store. Our attackers this year come from the threat actor group Shadow Gopher, which is a fake group, but based off of a real one. This is a financially motivated group based out of East Asia with nation-state ties. They have been active under various aliases for over a decade and increasingly active in the past year. Their target is going to be the up-and-coming technology company called Personalize.io. This is a mid-sized firm that specializes in software that they offer to their clients. who install said software on their employees' assets to collect data, both for the sake of targeted advertising. Great company. As I mentioned before, in this challenge, you're going to have the opportunity to play both as a member of Shadow Gopher in Tier 2 and a member of Personalize's defense team in Tier 1. And with that, let's move on to some questions. I'm going to hopefully knock out a few quick ones here. As I mentioned, experience level needed, none. We really try hard to make sure that these are approachable for all experience levels. And again, connect you back to resources and various how-to articles on a per challenge basis to get what you need to complete them. In terms of what you're going to need to compete or participate, we designed this to be compatible with all operating systems. You'll just need a laptop with a browser and an internet connection. I know we've done some troubleshooting in the past where there might be bugs here and there, but for the most part, I think last year we even had somebody play the majority of it from an iPad. So really, really just laptop or a machine and an internet connection. If you get stuck or need help, like we've done in the past, we will have Slack channels to provide support, and we will also hold office hours to kind of help you along, especially if you're having any technical difficulties. In terms of how you can compete, we do encourage collaboration. That's one of the best parts of this challenge, is getting the opportunity to collaborate with others, but you will be competing as individuals, not as teams. And then in terms of what you get for participating, other than hopefully a fun experience, we do send out LinkedIn badges. And this year we are working to get this challenge also have CPE credits offered as a continuing education offering as well. But with that, I will pause here and open it up for questions. How do I get a cool CTF t-shirt? I will say that the winners of the top 10 do receive hoodies with the design on it. What other questions do we have? In terms of what kind of opportunity this is, like I mentioned, you'll to get maybe a little bit more tactical. We base this off of the CTFD platform, so this is just going to be a website you can go to, you sign in, and then you'll be presented with various challenges as it kind of flows through a breach scenario, both as a defender and attacker. How many participants are currently enrolled? I'm not sure. It just opened, but I will say last year we had 1,300 folks participate and sign up. I'm hoping we can beat that number this time. Grading is a great question. So each of the challenges will have a set number of points that you'll win for completing them. And so our first grading is based off of points. Whoever has scored the most points, the top 50 in Tier 1, top 10 in Tier 2, we'll select based off of that. If there is a tie for point values, then as a tiebreaker, we go to who completed it the fastest. I don't think that's actually ever come up though in the 3 prior years we've done that. It's all just been based off of points. Anybody can participate. This does not have to be for professionals. I'll jump back here quickly to the timeline since I'm seeing some questions on when all of this is going to happen.
While you're doing that, I can jump on the points. So that's done by CTFD. You get points per challenge, but you get points deducted if you unlock hints. And that's basically it. Timing doesn't factor into it, like Sydney mentioned, unless there's a tie, which is very rare and wouldn't even matter unless you're on the bubble between getting the next tier.
What tools or software will be used during this challenge? The majority of what you do should be completable via just a browser and a text editor. if there is any additional tools or software that you need, we will provide, A, we will make sure it's compatible with Mac, PC, Linux, and B, we will provide you links to go and download them. They will always be free. We will never make you purchase software.
Yep, and one of the answers that I already wrote down is some tools that you can install, like CyberChef isn't a tool you install, but that's one you will use probably. VS Code is an IDE that you can download. It's free and open source. Very good. It's just good to have on your system in general for looking at files. And then Wireshark may be the only thing that you might need to install, which is looking at packet captures.
I see a question about tier 3. Is it open to everyone or just the top 10 presenters? Tier 3, there's no challenges. We just call tier 3 when the top 10 get to present. So no, that will only be open to the top 10. Just since given the size of the participants presenting to the target team, we would quickly not be able to do our day jobs with the amount of time that would take up. I see a question about, is this mostly CTF or what type of challenge? Yes, that will be formatted in CTF, meaning that you will be looking to do a series of tasks that will eventually land you with a flag. You submit the flag into the platform, and if it's correct, you get the points. If not, it'll let you know. No additional points for completing it faster. We just use timing if we have a tie for the top 50 or top 10.
Top 10 present virtually, not in person.
Since tier 1 is all defense this time, will all of the questions be linear, or will there be some cases where multiple questions open up following completion of a prior question? Great. That's a great call out. We are designing the challenge so you somewhat move linearly, meaning that there will be some challenges that are locked behind others, but we'll likely have some branching so that you're never like stuck on only having to complete one challenge. You can have a few different options to play between. Similar to like if you were responding to a breach, if there's different investigative steps you can take at different points. Just kind of up to you to prioritize it and hopefully jump back and forth if you get stuck.
And we're planning on doing the same thing as we did last year, where we have multiple hints, where the last hint is a walkthrough, where you, I think, have to give up around 90% of the points for the challenge, but you'll at least be able to proceed through it.
Yeah, to just expand on what Kurt said, last year we tried really hard to design the challenges where if you got stuck, you could unlock a series of hints that walk you through the challenge, but your hints cost points. So every time you purchase a hint, you're decreasing your total point score for the cost of the hints. If you unlock all the hints, it'll cost about 90% of the point value you would have gotten for completing that challenge. But the intent being you'll never get stuck and be unable to move on just because there's a single challenge that you can't figure it out. No point deductions for getting the flag wrong. We might have some limits to how many times you can try a flag just to prevent brute forcing and people just submitting random guesses, but we try to avoid that at all possible. In terms of how many challenges, I think I'm trying to remember where we ended up last year. It's still a work in progress. We're still pulling together on the last pieces here for our first tier. But I think last year we ended up with around 20 to 25 challenges tier 1, and essentially 5 or 6 big challenges for tier 2. Big meaning they took an especially long time. I don't think anybody was able to answer all of them because they were a bit more challenging in second tier.
Yep, it's going to be about the same this year. The other tool that I mentioned besides Wireshark and CyberChef was VS Code. It's Microsoft's open source code editor.
Somebody asking for guidelines for presentations that you should keep in mind when you while you compete, especially if you've moved on to tier 2. No, we really enjoy hearing from the top 10 at the end on what the experience was like for you, what you enjoyed, what you didn't. So no need to keep track of anything. I always encourage keeping good documentation as you work through challenges for your own sake and for good habit building, but you do not need that for the presentations. Completion certificates, I think, was actually a thing we bookmarked to look into, if you can get a certificate for completing it. I think that was something we were going to try to do this year. I'm not giving a definitive yes or no because I don't want to sign us up for too much extra work, but Kyle, we can take that one offline to figure out.
Yep, sounds good.
But yes, badges and CPE credits. Challenge is free. You just have to be a WiCyS member to compete.
Hints layered or in order? I'm trying to figure out exactly what you're asking there.
I think we had an unlock order in prior years.
Yeah, I think there were a couple where it got a little messed up, but they should be in order like they were last year for most of them. And definitely the last one's going to be not unlockable until you unlock the first two. So if there's, I think the prototype we're going for is 3 hints per challenge. I'm not going to stick to that hard and fast, but if there are 3, then the first 2 would be unlocked possibly in order, but the last one would be locked behind both of those being unlocked because that's going to be the walkthrough challenge. And we want to make sure you at least attempt it before you go to the walkthrough.
Yeah. What is the rule for using outside sources other than hints for completing the exercises? I encourage it very strongly. I feel like a big part of cybersecurity jobs is doing a lot of Googling and doing some research before coming back to a problem at hand. So please use as many outside resources as you would like. We'll point you to some, in fact, include links to outside resources for you to read up on if you're stuck.
Are there prevention methods for ensuring bots or AI are not being leveraged? There's not really prevention measures, but we are trying to make our challenges not easily solvable by AI. It is a tougher challenge as these models get more advanced. But no, there's no real way for us to prevent it, unfortunately.
Yeah. First time doing a challenge like this, any tips or advice? I'd say be patient with yourself and collaborate. I was blown away by the support WiCyS members were providing to one another. Here on the target side, we do a ton to try to support the Slack channel and answer questions or ping you one-on-one to help you when you're stuck. But make use of the community. Folks are very, very happy to bang their heads on keyboards together. Talk through like what worked and what didn't work without giving too much away. And yeah, be ready to do some of your own research to figure out and work through challenges.
There's a lot of questions around skills or knowledge areas. I guess I would say things related to incident response and network intrusion detection type stuff will be helpful on the defensive side. There's not really any specific resources I would point you to right now. For individual challenges, there could be links out to things for further background information. But yeah, in general, it's going to be like Sydney mentioned, it's an incident. You're following it from the defender and the attacker side, and so any kind of incident response knowledge will be helpful.
I'm seeing a handful of questions around internships or employment with Target or recruiting. I will say that when we do have open roles, which we most likely will, while this challenge is open, we will certainly talk through them during our webinar kickoffs at the time. We don't have any active recruiters watching or monitoring this event, but I will say that we've had many people come up and tell us that talking about this experience, referencing techniques that they use to tackle some of our challenges have been incredibly helpful during interviews, incredibly helpful to reference on resumes. that this has done a lot to help from an employment standpoint. I always will advocate going to go check out Target's career page and searching cybersecurity. We have a handful of open roles right now that we are always looking to recruit in. In terms of internships, though, I don't believe we'll have anything open until the fall. But keep an eye on Target's career page to learn more. Can we play any role? You'll play defender in tier 1. So you will only be able to play as the defender in the first tier, and then you will go back and play as the threat actor in tier 2. Like I mentioned before, both tiers will be open. For those that did not make the top 50 out of tier 1, you might have to wait a little bit of extra time before you are given access to tier 2, but everybody should be able to play both sides. I'm still seeing questions around what should we brush up on, what should we look into. We try to cover a very wide area of cybersecurity. As I mentioned before, we've got a lot of different teams participating. We try to cover multiple different hats, from cyber threat intel to incident response to data protection. So it's kind of it's a broad scope, but I'd say keep up on the threat landscape. We very much model this challenge off of what we see real threat actor groups doing right now. And so, yeah, if you wanted to, I guess, try to get a sneak peek, maybe do some research into what threat actor groups are out there targeting tech companies, what they're up to, and the techniques they're using to do so.
And then one other thing, maybe just for general knowledge, is go look at some folks have done write-ups for our previous challenges. And it's not going to help you directly with this because it's going to be completely different, but the mindset and how you approach challenges should be similar. So that might help you from kind of a general CTF knowledge thing if you're new to CTFs. Also, there's other CTFs out there that you can just go do at any time. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. I think the Flare-On challenges are hosted all the time. I'm not sure the link. I can try to dig one up. But you can go do kind of other CTFs to prep for this. But ours is pretty different. Most CTFs are very puzzly, and ours is much more of a scenario, more real world.
Do we provide challenge coins? No, I wish. I would certainly like to collect those too. But we will, like I mentioned, we'll give gifts and a hoodie to the top 10 winners.
I think I see a question about malware analysis versus CTF. I think we're going to stick with the CTF model for now. It just scales way, way better. And then also one of the issues we had with malware analysis in the past is that people typically need to have a bunch of advanced tools installed on their machine, and that was a nightmare for us to try to support. So I don't think we'll be seeing any super difficult malware analysis challenges. Mostly stuff you might be able to do in Dogbolt or web-based, RE platforms.
Any first-time CTF participants make it to tier 3 in the previous years? Yes. And this most recent one, I know at least one individual, this was their first ever challenge, and they made it. I see a question about early in career, want to work up to incident response, suggestions on what roles or positions to look for specifically at Target. We do have an incident response team that we have analyst positions opening up to. It's a great, it's considered an entry-level job. I don't know if we have any right now, but keep an eye out. They pop open all the time. Are we going to have reverse engineering CTFs? Tune in July and find out.
Yeah. It's not going to be dedicated, that's for sure. It's not all reverse engineering.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say mostly not.
Yeah, we're not that mean. All right, we'll hold it open a little bit longer for any other additional questions from folks. I'll wait just a minute here. Type quick if you've got any other burning questions, otherwise we can wrap it up. All right. Well, thank you all so much for the time. We are super excited to talk with you again in July. Please head to the registration page that was put into the announcement section. Go register. We will provide many more details and a lot more in-depth overview of how the challenge works come the Tier 1 webinar kickoff. We'll have that webinar recorded and distributed afterwards as well. So if you miss it, no big deal. But yeah, that should be it. With that, I'll wrap us up. Thank you all again so much. And like I said, I'm looking forward to talking to you all in July.